We're ready. Okay. Good morning. Welcome to Lake Harriet Spiritual Community, a Center for Conscious Living. I'm Tina Frontera, and thank you for being here. Thank you for those of you that are joining us from home, and thank you for showing up. I really appreciate it. So this is normally a talk, movement, and meditation service. We're going to do that, but I'm going to save a good deal of the movement towards the end because not everyone that's here today may be necessarily into the movement, and I wanted to kind of keep some continuity with the message. So we are an organization, just to explain Lake Harriet Spiritual Community. We're an independent organization. We gather here today to explore global consciousness, the connection to the divine, and we honor all sacred spiritual paths. So totally independent organization. And we have a theme usually every month. Last month's theme was Can You Hear Me? This month's theme is Choosing Kindness. Okay, so I'm going to talk about my story in relation to those two themes. So can you hear me? The word can very literally means, are you able? On another level, it's do you want to? On a spiritual level is will you allow? Hear, then, is can you hear sound? But also on another level, we may understand or not understand. On a spiritual level, then, we may decide to go even further than what's being told us, and we may be able to hear our own inner voice, our own tuition. So why is that a theme here today and last month? Can you hear me? It's a reminder for all of us to pay attention to what's being told to us, to what is surrounding us. Because when we actually listen to each other and we understand each other, it helps to bring peace. Peace with one another and peace within ourselves. This month's theme, then, is choosing kindness. And when we think of those words, the word choosing, I'm actively deciding to do something. Emotionally, though, we may choose to do something on an emotional basis out of fear, out of anger, out of ego, and sometimes then our choices aren't necessarily the right choice. And on a spiritual level, though, we may choose to do something for the highest good. Kindness is a great theme. It could be one single act. It could be an act because we feel deep compassion for another person and we really want to be kind to them. And it could be, spiritually, just a total way of being, a way that we want to live our lives, just fully in kindness, to be kind, to emit kindness, and to remember to be that way every day. That's a really hard thing to do when we're humans. So when we choose kindness, though, what it does is it creates another human bond with another human being, and it multiplies. Kindness really multiplies. You're kind to me, I'm kind to you, you're kind to somebody else, and it grows and it grows and it grows, and it sort of raises the vibration. And sometimes when we're kind to each other, we don't even realize the impact of it. I was in a restaurant a few years ago, and a gentleman came up to me and he said, are you Tina? And I said, yeah. And he introduced himself, and still I didn't quite remember him. And he said, 20 years ago, you were my supervisor and you did something, and I didn't even remember it. And I didn't really make a big effort, but for some reason he felt as though I was being kind to him because others were dismissive of what he was saying, and I was supporting him in whatever way it was. So sometimes we make more of an impact than what we realize with kindness, even when it's something really, really small. So I've been fortunate my whole life in that I've had mentors that have really acted out of kindness to me, and I've learned a lot from them. And I've also had some sort of intuition that while I was having fun and sometimes doing some daring things, that I had this intuition to really, I don't know, I guess not harm in some way. And many of you may know that I was raised in inner city Cleveland, and we had 2 sets of railroad tracks in my neighborhood. One set of the railroad tracks was where bad things happened. So as a child, I was warned not to go beyond those railroad tracks. The other set of railroad tracks, bad things happened there too, so don't go there. But in addition, there was rumor that the Italian mafia also hung out there. So we kids in our little neighborhood knew not to cross either tracks, but we also were told, also be careful because people crossed from both of those areas into our area. So be very careful. So we were a neighborhood of folks that came to Cleveland for a better life. Most of our parents worked in the factories. And it was an upper, lower class neighborhood of kids and families. Polish people from Czechoslovakia, people from Appalachia, Ohio, people from Italy. We were just quite this little melting pot. And so we found, especially the kids, a lot of joy in playing in the streets in that little neighborhood in inner city Cleveland. And we would love going to each other's houses because their parents spoke a different language than what our parents spoke. They ate different food than what we ate. And we even got to go to their churches. And I know I was thrilled because as a Catholic kid, their priest, so to speak, didn't speak Latin, so I could actually understand what they were saying. So it was really a great little melting pot. And as far as I knew, we were the only Puerto Rican family there. And our next door neighbor, Mary, was the only biracial woman there. And all of us kids played and played and played. We'd played all day, all night. In the summer, I was outside all day. And one day, my father said, "Tina, come inside. You're getting too dark." What does that mean? As a little kid, what the heck does that mean? What does that mean? You're getting too dark? And then things started getting really weird. There were riots happening on both sides of the track. My little elementary school had armed guards. Our parents started walking us to school, and things really started getting weird. So more and more, my father was saying, "Tina, come inside, you're getting too dark." And I noticed our neighbor Mary now was no longer standing at the bus stop to go to work. Her husband was driving her to work. So it was getting odd. And the next year, I was going to have to go to school on the other side of the tracks because I was junior high school age. So we moved out of that neighborhood, which was a shame because my father built the house we lived in, and he was so proud of that. As a Puerto Rican, born and raised in the hills of Puerto Rico with a dirt floor, what he wanted was a new house, but he left that new house. And we went to another neighborhood with a lot of little cookie-cutter houses in a safe neighborhood. But life still always has something that we have to be aware of, right? And so, yes, it was a safe neighborhood, but I would walk this certain route home every day and have to go by this little park. And there was a man there, and he was a flasher. And so then I'd have to make a decision. Do I go the long way or do I go by him? And I kind of looked at him. He didn't seem all that harmful, and he was always smiling, by the way. And so I thought, okay, I'm just going to every day just run by him, okay? And that's what I did. Okay? Because he seemed harmful enough. So I had enough intuition to know that something was odd. I didn't really understand what it was, but he wasn't going to harm me. Okay? So we make those judgments all of the time. Every day we do that, and we don't necessarily know that we're doing it, but we do it. We're listening to our intuition. So then, in this new neighborhood, I finally realized that my mother was schizophrenic. And she heard voices. So now, at a very early age, I had to discern what was a real voice and what wasn't. So the "can you hear me" theme really rings true for me, because that's a whole other level of understanding. So I had to discern that this person that was supposed to be my mentor and parent didn't always hear the right thing, and actually they weren't really there a good deal of the time. In contrast to my grandfather, who every week when he would come visit would say, "Tina, if you have your health, you have everything." And so that really rang true, because he said that week after week after week after week. So I grew up, and what did I choose to do? Be a nurse, right? And that's about health and about safety, and kept myself safe even while having fun then. I traveled 5 continents and did volunteer work on kids over 5 continents. They bled on me, they spat on me, but I made sure I took all of my immunizations. When I flew, I wore earplugs. When I traveled, if I had vegetables, I'd have them in soup. Just took all of those precautions. When I went hunting with a boyfriend, I went to a shooting range, so I knew how to shoot a gun. All of the precautions. And last month, I went to a shooting range. So, and I remember going downstairs, and the guys showed me how to chamber around, how to pull that chamber. And I really had a difficult time pulling that back. And I was really embarrassed, because I used to be a strong windsurfer, right? I used to be able to hold on to that sail in waves, in 30-mile-an-hour wind, strong. I always thought of myself as strong. And here I was, unable to really pull that chamber very effectively. And I felt like a little girl. Worse yet, I felt like an old woman. And my ego was on fire. And so I went ahead and decided to go into the shooting range, and so we paid, and the guy gave me earplugs, and I said, "How much are the muffs?" And he gave other directions that were technical in nature, and I was very focused on all of the technical points. Because, of course, I was going to be handling a gun, and I had to really know what I was doing. So we went in to the shooting range and got ready, set up the little target, got the gun ready, had the gun in my hand, and all of a sudden there was this biggest sound that I'd ever heard in my life, and I jumped. It seemed like feet, but it was probably just a couple of inches, and I was visibly shaken. I put down the gun, and my first reaction was, run. And then, I don't know, I got paralyzed, I couldn't move, and I looked behind me, because the shooting ranges are glass, and I saw the guys behind me, and I said, "Don't be a little girl, Tina, don't be a little girl." And so I picked up the gun, and I shook, and it's like, something is wrong here. And I shook, and I pulled the trigger, and I missed. I kept missing every time. I kept missing, and I didn't stop and think. It was like I was sort of in shock. I don't know if ever of you have had hypothermia. I went backpacking and was hypothermic. And it was kind of a similar thing. I wasn't thinking straight, and my hands weren't working. Something was wrong, and I didn't understand what was wrong. And I kept missing. And so finally, it was time to reload the chamber, and I could not get the bullets in. It took me a long time because there's a little spring in them and it's hard. And I couldn't, finally, got them in. And again, I missed and I missed. It's like, what is going on? So decided to go outside, get the earmuffs, come in, put them on, and everything seemed calmed. Got the gun, and I hit the target dead on in the center consistently every single time. Finished, went out, took the gun back to the desk, and the guy started talking, and I thought he was talking, and his voice was like, and I finally understood. I can't hear, and I did it to myself. First song, Gary. This is Carrie Newcomber, learning to live without knowing. Usually Gary's used to me standing up and
takes time, the ribbon across some finish line. Stop feeling I'm always a day behind. I'm learning to live with what takes time. I'm learning to sit with not knowing, when I don't see where it's going. I cool my heels and start slowing. I'm learning to sit with not knowing. I'm learning to sit with not knowing. I'm learning to sit with not knowing.
So the philosopher Lao Tzu, and I will need some light, thank you, says life is a series of natural and spontaneous choices. Be in the flow and don't allow yourself to be distracted by blindly following a course. Follow your inner voice and march to your own drummer. So I didn't do that. I didn't follow my instincts. What I followed was my ego. And I followed a course, okay? I'm going to go in there, and I came here to do this, and I'm going to do it. And even though along the way my intuition said, wait, I didn't do it. Okay? So I asked the guy, remember at the desk, how much were the muffs? But I allowed myself to get distracted instead of saying, no, wait a minute, how much are the muffs? Okay. Then going in, I heard somebody talking. And I shoved those earplugs in further, but I didn't test it. I should have done that, because I told myself, you should test it. I wear earplugs when I go flying. Why wouldn't I test it for this? And then in there, when that big bang happened, why was I so impacted and who I was with wasn't? Okay, that was another sign. So, normally what you would do with a loud sound, you would go like this. But when your hands are occupied, you don't. So that was also part of the issue. So in that 40 minutes, 40 shots later, I aged my ears by 40 years. Okay, so my 100-year-old father has better hearing than I do. So, as being a nurse, I'll bore you a little bit with just a little bit of the physiology here. We've got behind our ear a cochlea, and we've got little hairs in there called cilia. And so basically what I did is I fried the cilia in my hair, in my cochlea, rather. And so they don't grow back. They don't grow back. I researched 50 years of ear and hearing research. We still haven't figured out a way. Yeah, okay, they're talking about stem cell treatment way back when, but it's not there yet. So, Red, you could try steroids. So I tried steroids for 10 days. But the doctor said, don't get your hopes up. And it's true, you can do that when you have a medical condition that causes hearing loss, not when you have trauma. Okay, so in 5 days, I didn't notice a difference, got my hearing test. For those of you that don't know about hearing tests, there's an audiogram on a 10-point scale. And so my results, normally a normal audiogram is here, your hearing is good. Mine went from here, normal for some sounds, to now 50% loss, to 60% loss, to 69% loss. So moderately severe hearing loss. Okay, I went to Mayo Clinic, said, I'm willing to be part of any clinical study. There weren't any that they know of. So then I asked about hearing aids, and it was the shortest doctor's appointment I'd ever had in my life. And, she said, well, you could try them, She wasn't very positive about it in this type of hearing loss. So I have two things. It's like I have old ears, and I have this hyperacusis. Hyperacusis is, and I'm telling you this if I'm spending any time with you so that you understand, hyperacusis is everything's real loud. So it's a combination of not being able to understand sometimes words that are being said, but everything's really loud. So at the beginning, birds are irritating. When a bird chirps, it's irritating. Children laughing is irritating. Going to restaurants is amazingly irritating. Do you know how many speakers most restaurants have in the ceiling? I now know. It almost seems like so many of them have them every 10 feet apart. So that's still there. And when I send out an email to some of you, it's because it was about a month afterwards. I really thought that I'd be spending my entire life wearing earplugs. And so the entire first month was wearing earplugs because I could actually hear better. It would drown out all of the noise, because I could hear noise really, really well. So that if I was next to you, especially walking outside, I could understand you, okay? Because the understanding part of that graph is what's difficult, okay? That's what's really difficult, the understanding. So it was so ironic when I heard that the theme for last month was, "Can you hear me?" Really amazing. So it's best when we're outside, because things aren't reverberating on the walls. Okay, we've spent some time changing the acoustics in the house and that kind of thing. So I have to change things now. I'm a pretty good lip reader, and I really can understand 50% of what's being said. And if I read your lips, we are very, very predictable individuals, because I can usually guess what you're going to say, okay? It's difficult when you're telling a joke or when you're joking around, because then you're not predictable and you're not enunciating. Think about that. When we joke around, we usually say things really fast, and sometimes we move our head and we turn around. So it's the jokes, and when you're in a crowd and people are laughing, that kind of stuff is going to be hard. So big family gathering coming up with children, and so if any of the families out there, please don't be offended if I put the earmuffs on when the kids get really excited. I don't want the kids to squelch themselves. Let them have fun. Just the earmuffs might come on, okay? So life's gifts are wrapped in sandpaper sometimes, it's been said. So that discomfort of that sandpaper is a catalyst to change. Think about it in your lives. When you have changed something, oftentimes it's because something doesn't serve me anymore and I need to change. So I saved most of the movement for last, but I encourage you to stand for 60 seconds, okay? And because I usually do something in our movement of, let's do something to help us get rid of what no longer serves us. It's symbolic. It's a symbolic Qigong move, but Qigong's about getting rid of stuck energy. So if we just kind of stand, there's no music here. We're going to stand, take a deep breath, feet slightly apart, knees slightly bent. Take a couple of deep breaths. As though your feet are in a stream, like you're a strong tree standing in water. You're a strong individual. And you're just going to take your hand and tap your thymus. This is an area where anxiety builds. Sometimes we lose our voice when we're nervous, when we're anxious, and if we're talking about getting rid of what no longer serves us, sometimes just tapping this area helps while you remember to breathe. And think of anything that you need to get rid of that no longer serves you. And just take that hand and go down the opposite arm, and just tap down that arm and back up that arm. And with the other hand, down that arm and up that arm. And back to your chest. And down to the belly, where the fire in the belly is, where sometimes a lot of anxiety builds as well, and anger, if we have to get rid of any anger. And then I just encourage you to shake just for a minute. Not even a minute, just a few seconds. It's a whole minute of shaking. It is a lot. But just let it go. Let it fall off of your fingers and shake as hard as you can and let it go. Let it go, whatever it is. Is there a fear? Is there an ego thing? Is there sadness? Is there a principle? Is there something that you are holding on to that doesn't serve you anymore? And come to rest. And hands back at the side. Take a deep breath. And another. And I encourage you to have a seat. So, in Buddhism, there's a philosophy that nothing is permanent. We are always evolving. And they consider rebirth as a mental event that rises out of our blindness or our clinging to something. So it's recommended in many spiritual practices to find a quiet spot in your home. And we've created a spot in a little room where we have pictures of Evan's family, my family, ancestors, grandparents, that kind of thing, parents. And it's a great little room for contemplation. So I sat there with my lemon ginger tea one night and just sat there looking at the picture of my grandmother, Mama. And whenever I am looking for some sort of an answer, I often sit in that quiet room with Mama. I encourage you to think of what your altar might be, what your safe place might be. It may be where you practice yoga, but we all need a place like that. And so then I asked Mama, okay, what am I not seeing here? Where are my blind spots? What haven't I been listening to? What is this all about? Because, right, change is inevitable, but growth is optional, right? So how can I grow from this? What's the fruit that comes out of this? So as I think about this past year, I have spent a lot of it doing. I moved. I did more, helped folks, did a lot of things, busy. Not much meditation, not much quiet time, sometimes taking more chances than what I should have in doing a lot of things. And sometimes following people that may have better abilities than I when things are somewhat dangerous for me, where I need to start paying more attention. So my comfort zone was doing. Getting out of that comfort zone and back into that space of taking care of myself and kindness to myself is what's important. And we oftentimes forget about that for ourselves because we get so busy with whatever we're doing, our job, our children, our parents, our whatever. And so if we choose kindness for ourselves first, then we can go into unfamiliar territory, whatever it may be, and conquer our fears and turn challenges into opportunities. And Buddhism also talks about using our own suffering in understanding the suffering of others. Okay, because we all have lost something. Okay, everyone on this earth is afraid of something or has lost something. So we are all the same in that way. And so then by being kind to ourselves and to each other, we create this emotional bond, this emotional loving bond. Now, November is a real challenging month, right? It gets dark early. We have less daylight than normally. It's a time when people sometimes go into depression. It's a time when we are with our family, and sometimes our family triggers us. Okay, the holiday season, we get triggered by them. We had an election. We are sometimes triggered by that. We are with people during the holiday time of different religions, different beliefs. We sometimes need to be cautious and respectful of them. It's a very, very challenging month. And the good thing about kindness is that all religions speak to it. So even Judaism talks about that kindness in the beginning and the end of the Torah, loving kindness. Muslim and Islamic folks talk about mercy and kindness. It's a universal principle. Kindness is a universal principle. You can't really argue with it when your family is triggered, when you are triggered in any way. So one of my heroes, Mother Teresa, says, if we have no peace, it's because we've forgotten that we belong to each other. We come from one source, and our true nature is of a divine essence. So let us be loving kindness. And Gary, the next video, lead with your heart. Lead with your heart, loving the tenors. I can't hear your question. Yeah, that's what he has? Yeah. Lead with your heart. Yes, thank you.
In this world, it's hard to tell the shadow from the light. What is real can find a way to hide behind the lies. Don't be fooled or ruled by voices all around you, 'cause your road will always be revealed. If you lead with your heart. It's the one thing you can trust, to always come from love, and it will shine right through the dark, like a northern star to show you what is true. You'll never lose if only you will lead with your heart. You have been the truest friend that anyone could have, and the love you always give, I want you to get back. You've been knocked down and found. Not everyone is what they show you. What is true will always be revealed. If you lead with your heart. It's the one thing you can trust, to always come from love, and it will shine right through the dark, like a northern star to show you what's true. You'll never lose if only you will lead with your heart. It takes the beautiful unknown and somehow makes you feel you're home again, finally home again. And there's no longer any doubt what the mystery's about for you, or what you should do. Lead with your heart. It's the one thing you can trust, to always come from love. Lead with your heart. It's the one thing you can trust, to always come from love, and it will shine right through the dark, like a northern star to show you what's true. You'll never lose if only you will lead with your Okay. So now we're going to do a little bit of movement if you'd like. Okay. So I encourage you to stand up, and it's going to be very simple, easy movements. I'm not going to have you do any contortions, because this is Thanksgiving time, and the indigenous people of the world, not just of the United States, honor Mother Earth. They honor all of the natural gifts that we have. And this is Thanksgiving time. And they are especially aware of being kind, not just to each other, but Mother Earth and the atmosphere that we live in. So we're going to do that. We're going to give thanks and be kind to Mother Earth. So same position, the strong tree standing in the stream. Our hands in namaste position. Breathe in gratitude. Slowly raising our hands up to Father Sky, and thanking Father Sky for the sun that shines on us, the beautiful air that we breathe, and let's vow to treat Father Sky with kindness in return. Back full circle to Namaste position. And you're already facing east, but I'm going to face east. Or that's east. Okay, I guess you are moving a little. Hello, Jesus. And now we're facing the east. The east represents birth, rebirth, new life, spring. Slowly raise our hands out to the east, giving thanks to all the new things that grow, the new flowers that bud every spring, our new garden that starts every year, all of the new life, the children in our lives. Thank you and vow to treat everything from the east with loving kindness. Down full circle, back to namaste position, and now we're going to face the south. The south represents adolescence, early adulthood, relationships with others, bearing some of the fruits of our labor, warmth, and play. Raise our hands up, giving thanks to the season of summer and all that it represents. Promising to treat it with kindness. Come back full circle. And now we're going to turn to the west. The west represents maturity, the fall, reaping the fall harvest, understanding, gaining wisdom and perspective, raise our hands up, giving thanks to the fall and all that it represents. Promising to treat it with loving kindness. Come back down, full circle, namaste to the heart, and now we'll turn to the north. And the north represents winter. It represents a time to gather, to go inward, to learn all that we have to learn, so that we can use it to the fullest in the upcoming year. To gather all the growing that we've done through all of those seasons and be prepared to use it. But first going within first to ensure that we understand. So that we understand. So that we can share that wisdom in perspective. Raise our arms up. Thank the winter for all that it brings, and promise to treat it with loving kindness. And back to our hearts. Now we're going to look down, and if you want, with your knees slightly bent, if you want to, but you don't have to, you can try touching the ground, or you can just wave to the ground, to Mother Earth. Mother Earth represents grounding, nurturing, the growth of food, the growth of plant life,
all that helps hold us together. We give thanks to Mother Earth and promise to treat her with kindness. Slowly bring those hands up to Namaste position. And now, honoring ourselves, we come to center. We thank ourselves for the divine individuals that we are and the connection that we have to each other and the divine, and we honor ourselves. Thank ourselves, forgive ourselves, and vow to treat ourselves with loving kindness. Take a deep breath, and then I encourage you to have a seat. And we're going to do just a couple of minutes of a guided meditation. So I encourage you to sit with your feet flat on the ground, palms up, and take a couple of deep breaths. And as you breathe in, just imagine you breathing in beautiful sunlight, light energy through your nose, down to your lungs, down through your circulatory system. And you are filled with light and loving kindness within. With the next breath, imagine that light also encircling your entire body in safety. And as you breathe in, think of your ancestors. Think of anyone that has treated you with kindness. If you can imagine what they look like, great. Give them thanks. And just for a few seconds, sit there in silence, connecting yourself with their loving kindness, feeling their loving kindness radiate back to you. And just sit.
In the ever-shifting waters of the river of this life, I was swimming, seeking comfort. I was wrestling ways to find a boulder I could cling to, a stone to hold me fast. where I let the fretful waters of this river round me pass. And so I found an anchor, a blessed resting place, a trusty rock I called my Savior. There I would be safe from the river and its dangers, and I proclaim my rock divine. And I prayed to it, protect me, and the rock replied, God is a river, not just a stone. God is a wild raging rapids and a slow meandering flow. God is a deep and narrow passage, a peaceful sandy shore. God is a river swimmer, so let go.
Okay, we're going to gather in our closing circle. So what Peter Mayer was saying there, so if you'll gather in a circle, we traditionally gather in a closing circle and hold hands. You may have to go in between the furniture. What Peter Mayer was saying is, God is a river, so let go. God is a river, so let go. So,
till at last my fingers falter.
We gather here in this circle. We're going to do one little energetic thing.
So I'm going with the
I'd like you to
flow
imagine
now, these relentless twists
loving
and
kindness.
bends, acclimating to the motion
And imagine,
and a sense
when
of
I say so,
ease.
loving
And this river is
kindness,
like my body
and squeeze
now.
then your right hand and imagine then that loving kindness going around in the circle and intensifying and coming back to you when I say go.
God,
Loving kindness, go.
a river, not just a stone. God is a wild raging rapids
And we'll do the same thing with the left hand,
God is a deep
but
and
now
narrow
we're going to
passage,
think and imagine and
peaceful
send
sandy shore.
healing
God is a
peace.
river swimmer.
Healing peace, go.
God is the river swimmer.
And a deep breath.
So let go.
So, Mother, Father, God, Spirit, ancestors, all who love us, thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for the kindness we experience every day. And when we walk out of here, let us remember to treat every individual with loving kindness so that it multiplies and it grows beyond this circle, beyond our block, beyond the continent, and to the entire world. Aho. Thank you.